What's up, everyone? Raylo from Raylo Vapes here for a highly anticipated review. You guys have been asking me for this, wondering why I haven't released it. I keep kind of giving you sneak peeks, but today we will discuss the Goliath RTA by Youde Technologies, the tank to kill all other tanks that are out on the market right now, at least in my opinion. So let me go ahead and take a quick vape, show you how this thing works. Did you see that? Did you see how much vapor this thing produces? So we got another cloud chasing rebuildable tank. This is not a clearmizer. This is for us rebuildable guys. The guys that like to sit there, rebuild our own coils. We're not worried about someone else making our coils for us. But here it is. This thing is just a beast. But before I go any further, before I tell you anything more about this awesome tank, let's go ahead and dive down up close, take a look at it, show you all the parts, show you the deck, show you the juice flow control, the airflow control, the 6 millimeters of chimney that's coming all the way up to your drip tip. All right, so let's go ahead and dive down up close. All right, everyone, so here we go, up close with the brand new Goliath RTA by Youde Technologies. So as you can see here it is in its full glory. So let's go ahead and work our way down from the top. So here at the top, you have a 6 millimeter air hole coming out of your chimney. So the chimney itself is exactly 6 millimeters all the way up to the top. Then we make our way down. We have these heatsink fins. Then you come down to your glass Pyrex tank. You could see your chimney on the inside. Of course, I will take this whole thing apart. Then we come down here. You have this ring. Now this ring, what is it? What does it do? Well, if you look here on this side, if I could get the glare away, if you see right here, there is a little droplet. You see that little droplet right there? That little droplet is your gauge, and this is your meter. So we start down here, that would be completely turned off. You turn it to here, you open up your juice flow. All right, so that's very important. We'll go into detail in that in a minute. Then we come down here and we have these massive airflow holes here, which are also adjustable. You just have to tighten it up a little bit. You just turn this ring and you can adjust it, so you can close it off or you can open it back up. And there are two, one there and one there. All right, now let's go down here to the very bottom. On the bottom here, you can see, oh, hit the camera. You can see here we have the same copper adjustable connection that if I could screw, you can see there. So that way if you need to adjust it, tighten it down, or open it back up, say you're using a hybrid, you have that option. And of course it says Youde 2015. This is the V1 Limited Edition and serial number 7. So let's go ahead and take this whole thing apart and show you all the guts. So there's the top. You can see the nice red O-ring placed there in the top to keep a seal. Nice thick piece of Pyrex glass. And go ahead and take off the bottom here. Push this through. Here's your chimney. And your chimney is 2-piece. Dropping it. You can see there, that is 6 millimeters all the way through, all the way up until you get to the top. And then you have your chimney right here. Nice, smooth, conical design to help with flavor. Flavor, yes, very important. Then we go ahead and take this ring off. You can see the other O-ring sitting in here to seal off the glass. And that is your juice flow control right there. Now, here is the deck, the most important part, the part that everyone wants to know about. So let's get nice and close here. All right, so here's your deck right here. So basically what we're looking at now is you have 2 Phillip head screws here. And no, the screws are not rounded off. They are nice and flat, so you won't have the issues like they had with the first version of the Goblin. Then we look here, we have the same 3 millimeter air holes on both sides, so a total of 6 millimeters of airflow coming into your build deck. And then the way they did this is now this is your positive, this little L-shaped piece, and you have peak insulators sitting underneath there, so you don't have to worry about those ever melting on you. And then you got your negative post over here. Fairly generous post holes. You can easily fit some 24 gauge in there, even some 22 gauge, but I wouldn't suggest using 22 gauge on this. 24 about the max, 26 is what I've been using. And then we have these massive, just massive juice channels. So you can see it's like a little L-shaped juice channel, and it comes to this little flat deck right here. And that's on every single one. So you've got the juice channel, and it gets to this deck. This is where you're going to be putting your cotton in. Of course, if you stick around towards the end, I'll go ahead and show you that in the build tutorial that we do at the end of this, or that I do. And there's your grooves. That's where everything screws on together. And of course, for your airflow, it is held on by a single O-ring, just like that, and just pops right off. Very easy, simple to work with design. All right, so let's go ahead and show you how this whole thing goes back together. So we'll go ahead and screw this back on. And that, there's so many little parts here. Let me see if I can remember how to do this correctly. And you want to line up that little notch, that little drip right there, just like that. And that just pops right in, slides back and forth. And then there's a little flat piece. See if I can show you that. See that little flat piece that's right over here? You line that up with the flat piece that's right there. And that just slides in. And you just get it until it makes nice flush like that. Put your glass on. Throw your top cap back on. And just, oh, you might want to hold on to that piece though. There we go. It's hard to do on camera. Alright, so twist, 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 twist. Okay, so now when you're going to fill up your juice, and let's just show you how the juice flow control works here. So now when we open it up, you have the two channels, one here and one here, which helps immensely when you're trying to fill. Because if you ever had to do the bottom fills and you have to try and get a syringe in there, and then sometimes it bubbles back up on you, or there's too much pressure being made, and then your tank leaks because it floods out, you're not going to have that problem here. Because you fill here or you fill here. Whichever one you fill, the opposite one's going to be the air escape. So while you fill this one, air escapes here, and you're not going to have any issues trying to fill this thing up. That is a big plus for me. And of course, you can see it shuts completely off, so that way if you need to access your build deck or your coils in any way, shape, or form, you don't have to worry about juice flowing out of here when you take the tank section away, from your build section. And of course, this just slides right back in there. And you just screw that right back on just like so. So there you go, you guys. That is the up close with the brand new Goliath RTA from Youde Technologies. So let's go ahead and go back into regular mode. I'll vape on it, talk about it, gives you the pros and the cons, let you know what the price is and all of that good stuff. All right, so sit tight, be right back. So we're back. All right, so now you got to see the up close. You got to see all of the cool features that the Goliath has, how the juice flow control works, how you fill your juice up, the deck itself, the new invented deck, so that way your coils sit perfectly right where they need to sit when you're building it. Now let's go ahead and talk about it some. All right, so first things first, let's go ahead and let you know. This is all 304 food grade stainless steel. All right, all the way from the top down to the bottom. The only thing that's not, of course, would be your insulators, which are peak insulators, and of course your copper 510 connection, which is adjustable. So let's go ahead and see what other features I can find. There's really not too much information about this because this is a limited edition item. This is still in prototype stage. Well, I guess it's not prototype anymore. They bumped it up to full production, but they're only going to make 4,000 of these. But I digress. I'm going off track here. Let me go ahead and read you a few things that I'm getting directly from Youde's website. So, since they just put this up today, I'm actually refilming this review since now I have more information to give you guys. So, what they say on Youde's website is that, yes, it is a limited edition item. It has two 3mm air intakes into the chamber, two 2mm holes in the positive and negative posts. It can automatically control oil feeding. Well, not automatically, but you change it right here with this ring, which is pretty damn sharp. There's only I think one other tank that's on the market right now that does that. That's the K-Fun 4. This is better. So anyways, let's keep going down here. So yes, 304 stainless steel. It's 56mm high, 22mm in diameter. It holds, they say 4 milliliters. They say it holds 4 milliliters. This one, when I checked it, this is a very early prototype. This one holds just a little bit over 3.5 mils. So maybe with the version that's coming out for production, holds 4 mils. And let's see, it's 79 grams, 510 threaded, yada, yada, yada. That's really all they have on Youde's website. There's really not too much more on there. So let me just go ahead and tell you what I know. So as you saw, you have your heatsink fins, which I'm not too much of a fan of that, but it doesn't hamper performance in any way, shape, or form. So you have the nice thick glass. You have that really wide chamber coming all the way up to the top. You have that juice flow control. That juice flow control makes this tank a killer. There's no way else for me to explain it, no way around it. This right here upped the game on rebuildable tanks, even your clear misers. This upped the game. There's nothing else out there in the market in this price range with these features that can produce that much amount of vapor and still carry the same amount of flavor that you're getting on all the other high-end tanks on the market right now. There's just not. So while I said that, there is one place that had a pre-sale going, but I'm guessing they already sold out of their pre-sale, and that is Vape Northwest, I'm guessing. So it's vapenw.com, and they had it for $34.99. So this tank, with the juice flow control, the 6 millimeters of airflow, the unique deck system, the better way of wicking, so now you can put a lot more cotton in there and you actually have a deck that the cotton sits on. Just all these features on a tank that produces that much vapor and flavor for $34.99. All right? Unbelievable. Unbelievable. And no, the drip tip does not come with it. This is the Vapetasia Friction Fit drip tip everyone always asks me about. But the tank itself from top to bottom with all that airflow for $34.99. That's crazy. That's just insane. So let's go ahead and talk about, well, you know, I'm going to take a vape real quick. And this is on a mechanical at a 0.3, what is it, 0.33 to a 0.35. I do this build at the end if you want to watch the build that I'm using at this very moment. So let's go ahead and break it down. Pros and cons. We'll start with cons first. So the con that I had on this, because there's really not many cons in my opinion, the heatsink fins, they don't need to be there. It's not a necessary item. It's just sort of there for looks. This is not going to get hot enough to where you need to have these fins. But some people might want them. Either way, I just don't think they're necessary. The next, really the only other con I had on this is I'll show you. And it's really not that big of a deal. So, as you can see, right, full of juice. I can just take it right off, and there's my build. So, the one thing that I had an issue with, and it's, like I said, not that big of a deal. Let me go ahead and get a little bit up close here so you can see what I'm talking about. Okay, so there's not much threading there. Since they did open up those juice channels, as you can see, super wide juice channels, the threading now is only on those 4 sides. So one thing you have to be careful about when you're screwing this back on is that you get it lined up nice and don't force it. If it doesn't want to go, don't force it, because you can skip threading on there. Once it takes, you just screw it right down and you're good to go. All right, so that's sort of, you know, you get the pro of having the wider juice channels and an easier way of doing your wicking, but at the cost of having minimal threading on there. Not that big of a deal. Again, does not hamper performance, but that's just something to be aware of. When you screw it on, make sure it's lined up properly. You get used to it after a while and it becomes second nature. But just got to throw that out there just so you guys know when you do buy this and you do use it, that is something to be careful of. Other than that, I really can't knock this. There is no other cons. And really the only two cons I had, they don't hurt it performance-wise. So now, let's go ahead and talk about some pros, because let me tell you, I got a lot of pros on this. So, first pro, airflow. So we got 6 millimeters of airflow on the build deck itself. Massive. Another pro, that 6 millimeters of airflow continues from your deck all the way up to the top cap. And then if you have a nice wide bore drip tip, it continues all the way through. So you got 6 millimeters of airflow coming from down here at the bottom all the way up and through. So you got tons and tons and tons of airflow on a tank. The next thing, the next pro, the juice flow control, baby. That's what it's all about. That's what makes this thing such a beast, in my opinion. Having the juice flow control right there at my fingertips, I can close it, I can open it, I can close it, I can open it whenever I want. So if I have a heavy VG juice, I open it all the way up. I'm not going to have any wicking issues. If I have a high PG juice and it's very runny, I can go ahead and tighten up my juice flow so that way I don't flood out my tank and I'm not going to have any issues. I just dial it to exactly where I want it to be and it's going to perform the way I want it to perform. Having the adjustable airflow down here, another huge pro. Being able to access my build deck with a tank full of juice is huge. Huge. If you guys have used tanks before in the past, because pretty much every tank that's been out on the market, other than the K-Fun 4, you had to somehow empty your juice or you have to open it and try and get to it. This, you can access your build whenever you want. You need to change out your wick, you just shut off your juice flow. Take off the top, pull your wick out, throw some new wick in there. Say your coil goes bad, you want to change out your coil, you got a tank full of juice, just lock it up, pull it out, change your coil, and you're good to go. That's massive. When you want to fill it with juice, another huge pro, since you no longer have to fill from the bottom. You don't have to fill from the top. You don't have to do any of that. Now you just turn off your juice flow, pull your tank off, open it back up, fill it, and I've filled it with glass drippers. I've filled it with big giant bottles like this one from Vapetasia. I've filled it with needle tips. I filled it with everything. So it doesn't stop you from filling it. You don't need a screwdriver. You don't need anything. You don't need syringes. You don't need to have any needle tip bottles. You don't have to have any specialty gear to use this. All you need is your fingers and your bottle of juice, and that's all you need. The only time you're going to use tools is, of course, when you're rebuilding your coils. Otherwise, all you need is these. These are all the tools you need to control the juice flow, the airflow control, and to fill it. That's massive, people. I'm going to take another vape. And performance-wise on a mech is spectacular. I'm using it on the Gladiator V2, which I just reviewed. And it also works spectacularly well on regulated devices, but sadly my IPv3 is, it's all done. But whatever, that's a different story. So what other pros do we have on here? I think I covered them all. You have the better build deck. You have the juice flow control, airflow control, no need for tools. You have just everything, at least for me, everything I could want in a tank, I have right here. Now, capacity-wise, some people might complain and say that it doesn't hold enough juice. I want to have a 5 mil tank. I want to have a 10 mil tank. I want to have 15 mil tank. Here's the thing. When you add that much airflow to a device, specifically onto a tank, you're going to lose flavor. So what Youde did to make sure that you're still saving flavor is they shrink it down a little bit. They're not giving you that huge capacity because the further it needs to travel, the less flavor you're going to get. When you get a nice, dense, warm, flavorful vape coming off of this one, it's because it's been shrunk down a little bit. It's because they had to incorporate the length with that airflow. And some people have seen it, like with the Goblin. People were saying they wanted the bigger tank section. I've had a lot of people ask me recently and tell me recently that they switched back over to the smaller 3 mil tank, specifically because they were getting better flavor on the smaller chimney section in the smaller tank. So that is why they don't make these with 5 mil capacity. They want to keep that flavor in there as well as still give you that warm, dense flavor. Now, some of you guys might not like that, but at least try and understand that's the whole reasoning behind the smaller size, the smaller juice capacity. So that's one thing I wanted to get out there, because I get a lot of complaints of people asking me, why is it small? It needs to be bigger. It needs to be bigger. If it got bigger, you would lose out on your flavor. Maybe someday someone out there is going to figure out a way to make it so you still get a nice, warm, dense, flavorful vape with a massive tank. But right now, this is the best. This is the best. And I'm not saying that lightly. I'm not saying that because you see me review Youde products all the time. I'm telling you, I use this thing 80% of the time. All of you guys out there that were asking me questions about the Goblin, I had to struggle on that because I really only got to use the Goblin for about 3 weeks. Once I got this, I have not wanted to touch any other tank. And I have them all. They're all sitting right here next to me. I have the Delta. I have the Hercules. I have all of these things. I love this. I love this with a passion. It goes with me absolutely everywhere. It is the easiest, simplest, best performing tank on the market, hands down. Yeah, it is. I'm taking another vape. It's just good. Flavor's there. Vapor's there. It's nice, warm, it's clean, it looks nice, and that juice flow control. So that's pros and cons, prices, everything. This is probably a fairly long video going on right here. But if you want to stick around, I do a rebuild on this, or a build on this, a build tutorial where I use 26 gauge Kanthal and Japanese cotton, and I show you how to build and wick it properly. Exactly how this thing should be working. I've had this for probably going on a month and a half now, and this is the best build I've put in here. No dry hits whatsoever. Long, I could take this up to like 60, 70 watts, no problem. 80 watts gets a little too hot. 60 to 70 is my preference, but I could take it up higher if I wanted to, just not my preferred vape. So there it is, you guys, the Goliath review. I hope you guys like it. This thing, I just can't say enough about it, you guys. This thing's, it's the bee's knees, all right? How's that? So if you want, stick around for the rebuild portion of this. I'll show you guys how it all works. But if you don't want to stick around for that, and this is where we part ways, thank you so much for watching. Really do appreciate you guys coming by, watching my videos. And, of course, vape on. Let's go ahead and take you out with the cloud. All right, everyone. So here we go. We're going to go ahead and rebuild the new Goliath V1 RTA from Youde Technologies. We're going to be using 26 gauge A1 Kanthal. We're going to go ahead and do a 6 wrap on 26 gauge on a 2.5 millimeter bit. So let's go ahead and do this real quick. So here we go. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Go ahead and smash that down. So ugly when you're making coils on camera like this, but you know, we can always fix this. Let's go ahead and straighten these out real quick. Just like so. Cut off our excess. We don't need all this extra wire here. Okay, now here's the benefit to using or building on the Goliath compared to some of the other tanks that are out there, specifically like the Goblin and all of those that have the massive 4-post design. Let's go ahead and loosen these screws. So the way that this was designed is so that way you go ahead and insert your coils, and like magic, it sits directly You see that? When you put that in there, it sits directly over the top of your airflow. Now, one thing I like to do is lift up. I like having this a little bit higher. It allows for more airflow to pass through underneath and everything like that, and just leaves it nice and open. Now, of course, you need to keep this fairly close to your build deck there. So similar to this, you can see very, very close. And there is that. Let's go ahead and fold those leads up so everything sort of stays in place. Didn't really stay in place that well, but whatever. Again, we'll fix this later. So through the magic of the internet, here's my second coil, exactly the same as the first one. We'll go ahead and feed that through. And again, you want to make sure that you have these as close as you can to your posts. All right, let's go ahead and screw these down. All right, let me go ahead and cut these off. I'll be right back. All right, so here we go. You can see we got our coils in there. They're lined up. They're very, 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 very close to the post without actually touching. Now the next thing we need to do is fix them up a little bit. So let's go ahead and give it a squeeze with these nifty ceramic tweezers. All right, so you can see, there you go. You have your two coils sitting directly over the top of your airflow holes. Take a look at that. All right, so let's go ahead and dive down, get our Japanese cotton, and go ahead and start wicking this. All right, so I already cut my little thin pieces of Japanese cotton. So we'll go ahead and twist this around and feed it through our coils there, just like so. All right. All right, now here's the trick, because we don't need all this cotton. See if I can get you close enough to see this. Like I talked about in up close, you can see right here is your little deck that you want your cotton to sit in. Not in here, just in here. You don't want it to get into these channels. So we're gonna go ahead and cut our cotton and fit them directly in there. So what I like to do is I'll drop the cotton down, find out where that goes, and cut. And of course you can do the exact same cut on that one. So same thing, bend our cotton down, cut it right there, and cut this one right there. Now we don't need all this cotton, so I'm gonna go ahead and thin this out just a little bit here. Just give it a little haircut. And then, like what I always do with my tank builds, is I kind of do the little angled cut here. Okay, so let's kind of check this out. A little bit more. Oops, sorry. A little bit more right here. Perfect. All right. Now let's go ahead and get us some juice. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and use some of this upside down Uncle Creepy from Asylum Max VG. Some really good stuff coming out of Black Cloud Vapor. This is a Max VG juice. And here we go. So you wanna go ahead and give your cotton, you know, saturate it a little bit. Makes it easier to work with. Okay, so now all you do is you take your cotton and you place it right into that little deck right there. You can actually use a fair amount of cotton, which is quite nice and makes this very easy to wick. Possibly one of the easier tanks I've wicked, because this one, unlike the Goblin, I do apologize. On the Goblin review, I kind of told you guys you could stuff cotton in those channels, and I was wrong. So I admit it. I was wrong. Trevor Jones has a really good build tutorial on it where he just kind of lays it on the deck. But this one is actually made to be built exactly like this. So you can see I'm not putting it inside these channels. I'm just laying it inside that little lip. Just like that. So you can see that is perfect. Now let's go ahead and check the resistance. I haven't checked that yet. That's not right. All right. That's why I don't really use this ohm meter anymore. Maybe we're not tight here. There we go. Screws weren't completely tight. That's what I figured. About a 0.35, 0.33. So that is exactly how you do it. So I'm going to go ahead and show you guys how to fill it, since I haven't shown you that yet. So we got our juice flow open. So you want to have your little juice knob thing lined up so that way you're completely open. And here's the cool part. So you don't, like I said, you don't need to have any special tools. You don't need to have any special bottles. You don't have to have any special tips. We're going to use just a plain old glass dripper, and you just go ahead and fill it on up. Best part about this is while one side's filling, the other side's allowing the air to escape, so you don't have to worry about pressurizing your tank while you're filling it. One more. There we go. Salt bubble up. Go ahead and close off your juice flow and stick that right back in there. Line everything up. Screw it down nice and snug. And of course I got juice all over the place because I'm sloppy. And there you go. That is how you build, wick, and fill the new Goliath RTA by Youde. This thing is a killer. So thank you guys so much for watching. Glad you guys stuck around for the build portion. I hope this build helps you out when you do purchase the Goliath RTA. So there you go, you guys. Thanks for watching. Vape on.